"You're cut off from our family retreat," Mom texted in all caps. A week later, they got a notice. The resort had a new owner and their access cards were dead. What Olivia did next would haunt them forever. I stood in my mother's sprawling La Jolla mansion, the aroma of roasted turkey and sage heavy in the air, as my sister Natalie's voice cut through the clinking of crystal wine glasses like a shard of ice. "We've had a family vote. Olivia," she said, her influencer-perfect smile dripping with venom, "you're no longer part of this family." The words landed like a grenade, splintering the illusion of our Thanksgiving warmth. My mother, Claire, froze, her fork hovering over her plate, while my brother, Connor, stared at his phone, avoiding my gaze. Leonard, my stepfather, swirled his bourbon, his face as blank as ever. For 9 years, I'd poured every cent of my biotech fortune into their endless demands, believing I was their lifeline. Now they'd ambushed me with this cruel ultimatum: surrender my wealth or be erased. My hands trembled as I placed the silver dossier on the dining table, its metallic sheen catching the chandelier's glow like a blade. "Read it," I said, my voice steady despite the fury clawing at my chest. "You're going to want to see this." Their smug faces faltered, and I knew the secrets inside that folder would ignite a fire they couldn't extinguish. This wasn't just a dinner. This was the end of their game. I grew up in a pristine La Jolla neighborhood where palm-lined streets and ocean breezes masked the fragility of our perfect family. Our Mediterranean-style home gleamed with white stucco and red-tiled roofs, the kind of place featured in lifestyle magazines. My mother, Claire, was the queen of appearances, hosting charity luncheons with a smile that never reached her eyes. My father was a venture capitalist, always chasing the next big deal, his Rolex ticking louder than his promises to be home for dinner. Natalie, 4 years younger, was the golden child, cheerleader, Instagram star, her life a curated performance of charm. Connor, 7 years my junior, was the spoiled prince, coasting on charisma and excuses. We were the Bennetts, San Diego's postcard family, until the facade crumbled. I was 14 when Dad left. He ran off to the Bahamas with his assistant, a woman half his age who wore too much perfume and called him darling. His alimony checks were erratic, barely enough for groceries, let alone the mortgage on our mansion. Mom's world collapsed, her socialite status teetering as she scrambled to keep up appearances. "We're team, Olivia," she'd say, her voice brittle as we sorted through overdue bills at the kitchen counter. "Family comes first." I clung to those words, letting them define me, even as they became my prison. To survive, Mom married Leonard Hayes, a quiet real estate agent with a comb-overs and no spine. He moved us into a new coastal mansion, all glass and marble, a desperate bid to reclaim our status. Natalie leaned into her influencer persona, racking up followers with beachy selfies, while Connor slacked through high school, charming his way out of consequences. I coped differently. I threw myself into school, acing AP classes and coding late into the night, driven by a need to escape the chaos. My hard work paid off with a full scholarship to Stanford for bioengineering, the only path I saw to stability. I faced the first real danger my family's greed brought me. Natalie called, crying hysterically, claiming she needed $3,000, 0 cents for a tuition crisis, at her private art school. I was a freshman, scraping by on work-study wages, but I couldn't say no, not to family. I drove to a dimly lit parking garage in downtown San Diego to hand her the cash. My stomach knotted with unease. As I passed her the envelope, a thug in a hoodie stepped from the shadows, his hand gripping a tire iron. "You got more for me, rich girl?" he snarled. I froze, heart hammering, until a security guard's flashlight scared him off. I sped away, shaking, only to see Natalie's Instagram post the next day. VIP shots from Coachella, her crisis a lie. That was my first glimpse of the betrayal I'd face. After Stanford, I launched my biotech startup, Helix Innovations, at 22, becoming its CEO with a $100,000 0-cent salary in San Diego's booming tech scene. I was building cutting-edge gene editing software, a dream that felt like my ticket to proving my worth. But 3 weeks in, Claire called, her voice trembling. "Connor needs $4,000 0 cents for emergency surgery, Olivia. Please." Wired the money, picturing hospital gowns and sterile rooms. When I visited home, I found Connor flaunting a new $4,000 0 cents Audemars Piguet watch. His surgery, a fiction. "Looks dope, right?" he grinned, oblivious to my clenched jaw. That was when I realized I was their cash machine. The demands escalated like a runaway train. Medical bills, car repairs, urgent taxes. Each sob story was a hook, and I was the fish. At 23, my company landed a $130,000 0 cents contract, boosting my credibility, but my family's greed grew bolder. Claire called in a panic, saying the bank was foreclosing on their mansion. "We'll lose everything, Olivia." I drained $35,000, 0 cents, from my savings, kissing my dream of a condo goodbye. When I visited, I saw a new infinity pool sparkling in their backyard. Claire's excuse, a mumbled, "It was a good deal." Natalie's Instagram showed her sipping rosé in Santorini. My emergency funds nowhere in sight. Danger followed like a storm cloud. At 24, a loan shark named Rico tailed me to my office, his voice low and menacing through my car window. "Your mom owes me 15 grand. You're the one who pays, yeah?" I hadn't known Claire was borrowing from criminals, but the threat in his eyes was real. He knew my commute, my gym schedule. I paid him off via a terrified bank transfer, my hands shaking, and upgraded my security system that night. Claire dismissed it as a mix-up, but the fear clung to me, a reminder that their recklessness endangered more than my bank account. By 25, I was drowning. Natalie's charity gala was the breaking point. She needed $50,000 0 cents for a cause, promising it would boost her influencer brand. I wrote the check, my gut twisting. The gala was a spectacle, private jet, couture gown, A-list guests, but I overheard her on a call, laughing about using my money for a Miami penthouse down payment. "Olivia's such an easy mark," she said, her voice echoing in my head. That night, I started the silver dossier, logging every dollar I'd given. $387,620, 0 cents over 7 years, a number that made my vision blur. Another danger struck at 26. Connor's investor, a nightclub owner named Vince, cornered me at my gym, his breath reeking of whiskey. "Your brother's DJ scam cost me 30 grand. You're covering it." Connor's latest venture, a music festival, had collapsed and Vince held me responsible. I talked him down, promising to review the numbers, and escaped, my pulse racing. Connor later admitted he'd used my $30,000 0 cents career loan for a yacht rental, which he wrecked, begging for more to cover repairs. The worst came at 27. After Connor tipped off his creditors about my routine, 2 men ambushed me in an alley near my apartment. One pinned me against a brick wall, the other's fist connecting with my wrist, snapping it like a twig. "Your brother's debts are yours now," one growled. I woke up in the ER, my arm in a cast, Connor's tearful apology ringing hollow. He'd betrayed me to save himself, and the pain was more than physical. At 29, Helix Innovations went public, valuing my shares at $25 million 0 cents. I kept it quiet, but Natalie's fiancé Derek, a slick hedge fund manager, sniffed it out. Days later, my company's server was hacked, targeted, precise to a contractor Derek knew. The breach risked sensitive client data, threatening my reputation. I stopped it, but the violation felt like a betrayal carved into my code. By 31, I was done. I hired a private investigator, a former FBI agent named Carla, who uncovered a cesspool of deceit. Claire had lost $200,000 0 cents in Vegas casinos, funded by my legal settlement loans. Natalie's charity was a $30,000 0 cents cosmetic surgery spree, liposuction, Botox, the works. Connor's music venture was a crypto scam, my money funneled into offshore accounts. Dr. Emily Voss, my therapist, called it financial abuse. Attorney Lisa Grant saw a fraud case that could recover millions. Armed with their counsel and Carla's evidence, I planned my Thanksgiving reckoning. The tension peaked in November. Natalie left voicemails, her tone icy, warning of repercussions if I didn't fund her influencer retreat. I ignored her, my resolve steeling. On Thanksgiving, I walked into Claire's mansion, the table set with her heirloom china, paid for with my emergency loans. The air was thick with false warmth, their smiles a mask for their plan to cut me out. After dinner, Natalie dropped the bomb. "We've voted you out, Olivia. Your control over our money is toxic." Claire's crocodile tears and Connor's silence confirmed it. They wanted me gone because I'd stopped paying. I placed the silver dossier on the table, its pages a catalog of their greed. $387,620, 0 cents in lies. "This is what you've taken," I said, my voice a blade. I showed Carla's photos, Claire's casino receipts, Natalie's penthouse, Connor's crypto accounts. A recording played their October cruelty, Natalie's laugh, Connor's scorn, Claire's cold calculations. The room went still. Claire lunged for the dossier, nearly shattering a vase, screaming it was fake. I offered 2 choices, repayment and therapy, or lawsuits and jail. Outside, Derek followed me to my car, threatening to leak doctored emails framing me for corporate espionage. Connor begged for forgiveness, Claire admitted her gambling, and Leonard confessed his ignorance. I handed them legal letters, repayment terms, therapy mandates, and drove away, free at last. The silver dossier changed everything. 6 months later, I'd moved to a downtown loft, joined a sailing club, and started dating a marine biologist named Alex. Claire entered rehab, Connor got a tech job, but Natalie remained defiant. Tomorrow's dinner looms, a test of their change. Will they rise, or will their greed resurface? The dossier's truth burns, a reminder that my worth isn't what I give, but who I fight to be. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting San Diego's Mission Bay in hues of amber and violet as I sat at a secluded table in the sea breeze, an upscale waterfront restaurant. 6 months had passed since that explosive Thanksgiving, when I'd laid the silver dossier on my mother's dining table, exposing the lies that had drained me for 9 years. My family, Claire, Natalie, Connor, and Leonard, had been forced to face their betrayal, and I'd walked away, leaving them with a choice, accountability or legal ruin. Tonight was the first test, a family dinner on neutral ground. No lawyers, no mediators, just us. My biotech empire, Helix Innovations, had made me a millionaire, but this moment wasn't about money. It was about reclaiming my soul. My fingers grazed the edge of my untouched martini, my nerves taut as a bowstring. I wasn't the Olivia Bennett who'd once begged for their love with every check I wrote. I was a CEO, a survivor, and I was ready for their next move. Or so I thought. The restaurant hummed with the chatter of affluent diners, the clink of glasses, and the soft jazz drifting from a live quartet. I'd chosen the sea breeze for its public setting. No chance for private manipulations. No cozy family den to hide their schemes. The rules were ironclad. 2 hours, no financial talk beyond our legal agreements. Everyone pays their share. Dr. Emily Voss, my therapist, had coached me relentlessly. "Call out their tactics, stay calm, and walk away if it escalates," she'd said. "Your worth isn't their approval." Her words were my armor, but facing my family felt like walking into a lion's den with nothing but a shield. Claire arrived first, her steps measured in low heels, her designer wardrobe replaced by a modest linen dress. Her face was gaunt, her eyes carrying the weight of 5 months in gambling rehab and a return to teaching to repay the $100,000 0 cents secret loan I'd uncovered. "Olivia," she said, her voice softer than I'd ever heard, "you look strong." I nodded, wary. "Thanks, Mom, you seem better." Her gaze flicked to the empty seats, a flicker of anxiety betraying her calm. Connor was next, his usual slouch gone, replaced by a cautious confidence. He wore a blazer, a stark contrast to his old band tees, and carried a laptop bag, a sign of his new tech job after a grueling apprenticeship. "Hey, Liv," he said, offering a hesitant smile. "Good to see you." I returned a nod, my trust in him fragile but curious. Could he really have changed, or was this another performance? Natalie and her fiancé Derek swept in last, their entrance a calculated spectacle. Natalie's influencer glow was intact, blonde waves, tailored jumpsuit, but her eyes were sharp, calculating. Derek's jaw was set, his glare a silent accusation. They'd repaid the $50,000 0 cents gala loan and $30,000 0 cents for her cosmetic surgery lie by selling their Miami penthouse. But Natalie had dodged most therapy sessions, her texts seething with resentment. "Nice spot, Olivia," she said, her tone honeyed but edged. "Very public." Derek's smirk added a layer of menace, setting my instincts on high alert. We ordered grilled halibut for me, steak for Connor, salads for Claire and Leonard, and a lavish lobster tower for Natalie and Derek, a flunt I noted but let pass. The conversation tiptoed around safe topics: Padres games, the latest HBO series, the summer crowds at Coronado Beach. But beneath the surface, a current of tension pulsed. Natalie's fingers danced on her phone, her rapid texting raising red flags. Connor caught my eye, shaking his head slightly, a warning I couldn't ignore. Something was brewing, and I wasn't about to be caught off guard. The first crack came mid-appetizer. Natalie set her fork down with a deliberate clink, her smile a razor's edge. "So, Olivia, still saving the world with your gene-editing wizardry? Must be exhausting being so perfect." The jab was familiar, her way of belittling my career. I sipped my water, channeling Dr. Voss. "It's rewarding, Natalie. Protecting lives through biotech isn't easy, but it's worth it," Derek snorted, leaning back. "Protecting lives? Sounds like a fancy excuse for sitting in an office while the rest of us deal with reality." Felt the old urge to justify myself, to prove my value, but I held firm. "That's a cheap shot, Derek. If you've got a real issue, spit it out." The table went silent. Claire's fork froze, Connor's eyes widened, and Leonard stared into his bourbon. Natalie's smile tightened, her gaze a challenge. "Just making conversation, sis. No need to get so defensive." But the air shifted, the veneer of civility cracking like thin ice. As our entrees arrived, I noticed a man at the bar, his leather jacket out of place among the tailored suits. Mid-40s, a scar on his neck, he wasn't eating, just watching our table, his phone glowing with incoming texts. My cybersecurity instincts screamed. I'd seen his kind before, during the loan shark scare when Claire's gambling debts had put me in danger. Was he tied to Natalie's frantic texting? I leaned toward Connor, keeping my voice low. "Know that guy at the bar?" Connor glanced over, his face paling. "No, but..." "Natalie's been meeting some sketchy people. Said she's handling you." My heart rate spiked. Natalie's voicemails before Thanksgiving, cryptic threats of repercussions for not funding her retreat, echoed in my mind. Had she escalated beyond words? I excused myself to the restroom, texting my private investigator, Carla. "Check Natalie's recent contacts, possible threat at my location." Carla's reply was swift. "On it, stay vigilant." When I returned, the man was gone, but Natalie's smirk told me she'd clocked my unease. Dessert arrived. Key lime tart and espresso. But the mood was sour. Derek leaned forward, his voice a low growl. You think you can ruin us with your little dossier and walk away, Olivia? You destroyed our family. Claire gasped. Connor's plate clattered and Leonard's glass froze mid-sip. I met Derek's stare, my voice calm but steel-edged. I didn't destroy anything. I exposed your lies. $387,620.00 worth of them. You used me. And I'm done. Natalie slammed her hand on the table, drawing gasps from nearby tables. You're so self-righteous. You think you're better than us because you've got money in a corner office. We're your family. Her voice cracked, but her eyes were cold, calculating. You owe us for surviving Dad's mess. Mom always said you were the reason he left. Too intense, too needy. The accusation was a dagger, reopening wounds I'd buried. Had Claire blamed me for Dad's abandonment? I looked at her, searching for a denial, but she stared at her dessert, silent. My phone buzzed with a text from Carla. Natalie's been wiring money to a fixer named Victor Salazar. Extortion, corporate sabotage, assault charges, matches guy at bar, get out now. My blood froze. Victor Salazar, a fixer. Natalie wasn't just resentful, she was orchestrating a takedown, targeting my career, my freedom. I scanned the restaurant, spotting Salazar outside, now leaning against a black SUV still on his phone. My training kicked in. Assess, strategize, act. Confronting them here with diners around was too risky. I need air, I said, standing abruptly. Connor grabbed my arm, his eyes desperate. Liv, I didn't know about this, I swear. His sincerity hit me, a glimpse of the brother I'd once loved. Stay here, I whispered. Keep them talking. I slipped onto the patio, the ocean breeze doing little to cool my panic. I called Carla, my voice hushed. What's Salazar's angle? Her reply was grim. He's got a history of planting fake evidence to ruin execs. Natalie's paying him to frame you for leaking Helix's proprietary data. It could tank your company and land you in jail. My stomach plummeted. Helix was my life's work, my proof I'd risen above their chaos. Losing it would be catastrophic. I turned to head back, but Natalie was already there, blocking the patio door, her arms crossed. Running away, Olivia? Her tone was a purr, but her eyes were predatory. You didn't think we'd let you humiliate us and skate free, did you? Derek's got contacts who can make your life hell. My fists clenched. You're working with Salazar, aren't you? Framing me for data theft. That's your revenge. Her face twitched, a crack in her armor. You've always acted superior, throwing your money around. This is payback. I stepped closer, my voice low. Payback? I funded your penthouse, your surgeries, your lies, and you repay me with a setup? Before she could answer, Connor burst onto the patio, his face flushed. Natalie, stop! I saw your texts to Salazar on Derek's phone. This is insane! Natalie's composure shattered. You traitor, she hissed, shoving him. He stumbled but stood firm. I'm done lying for you, he said, his voice shaking but resolute. Olivia's been there for us, and we've been monsters. Claire and Leonard appeared, drawn by the shouting. Claire's eyes were wide. Natalie, who's Salazar? Natalie spun on her, venomous. You taught me to survive, Mom. You said Olivia was our way out. The truth crashed over me like a wave. Claire had groomed Natalie to see me as a resource, not a sister. Claire crumpled, tears streaming. I was desperate, Olivia. After your father left, I didn't know how to keep us afloat. I thought your success would save us all. Her confession was raw, but it didn't erase the years of manipulation. Closed outside. Salazar approached, his phone still in hand. "Time's up, Bennett," he called, his voice dripping with menace. My heart pounded, but my training held. I grabbed Connor's arm, whispering, "Get Mom and Leonard out the back, now." He nodded, ushering them away as Natalie stood frozen, her plan unraveling. I faced Salazar, my voice steady. "Whatever Natalie paid you, it's not worth the federal charges. I've got your texts, your bank records, your history. Walk away or I send it all to the FBI." It was a partial bluff. Carla was still digging, but Salazar hesitated, his eyes narrowing. "You're out of your league, lady." He stepped closer, and I braced for a fight. Then, a miracle. Connor reappeared, holding up his phone, recording. "It's streaming to my cloud, Salazar. Back off." The fixer cursed, retreating to his SUV and speeding off. Natalie screamed after him, "You coward!" But he was gone. She turned on me, her face a mask of rage. "This isn't over, Olivia. You'll pay for this." Back inside, the restaurant staff hovered, concerned, but I waved them off. We sat at the table, our meal cold, the air thick with tension. Claire sobbed. Connor was pale, and Leonard looked like he wanted to vanish. Natalie sat rigid, her defiance crumbling. "I didn't mean for it to go this far," Claire whispered. "I just wanted us to be a family." I leaned forward, my voice breaking. "You stopped being my family when you saw me as a bank account. I gave you $387,620, 0 cents. My dreams, my safety, and you tried to destroy me." Connor reached for my hand, his eyes wet. "I'm sorry, Liv. I'm trying to be better, I swear." His sincerity cut through my armor, a reminder of the brother I'd once believed in. Claire's voice was faint. "I'm in rehab. I'm teaching again. I'm trying to fix this. Please don't give up on us." I looked at her, the woman who'd shaped me with love and lies. "I'm not giving up," I said. "But I'm done being your victim. You have the repayment plans, the therapy. Follow through or we're done." Natalie stood, grabbing her purse. "You're pathetic, Olivia. You think you've won, but you're alone. You'll always be alone." Her words stung, but they didn't break me. "I'd rather be alone than used," I replied. She stormed out, Derek trailing like a shadow. As the restaurant emptied, Connor stayed, helping me settle the bill. "I meant it," he said. "My job, paying you back, it's real. I want to be someone you're proud of." I hugged him, the first real connection in years. Claire and Leonard lingered, uncertain. "We'll keep trying," Claire said, her voice fragile. I nodded, my throat tight. Driving to my downtown loft, the city lights blurring through my tears, I felt a weight lift. Natalie's scheme had failed, Salazar was gone, and I'd held my ground. My phone buzzed with a text from Alex, my marine biologist boyfriend. "You okay? You're incredible." I smiled, picturing the life I was building. Friends who valued me, a career I'd fought for, a future I owned. The silver dossier, locked in my safe, had transformed from a record of pain to a symbol of my resilience. Tomorrow I'd meet Dr. Voss to unpack tonight's chaos. Next weekend I'd sail with my new friends, maybe plan that New Zealand trip I'd shelved. My family's journey wasn't over. Claire and Connor were trying. Natalie might never change, but I was no longer their pawn. As I parked under the stars, I knew I'd faced their worth and emerged stronger. Whatever came next, I was free to define my worth, and that was victory enough.